Good, so let's take questions. Patrick, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, thank you, David. Patrick Schwendemann, ZKB. Maggi wants to go into new markets. Where do you see the biggest potential in terms of new markets, and what is the potential for Maggi in the US?
Thank you for the question. I think we want to go into new markets, but first we definitely have headroom in our existing markets. And as Remy showed, in 4 key markets in AOA, we still had gained up to 500 bips of penetration. When we look at new markets, I think it's a choice between portfolio. For example, in Europe, we're looking at our noodles portfolio to expand into current geographies, but also into new countries where Maggi is a kind of relatively new brand there. And we see a great potential to look at that as a pan-European platform beyond countries. US is the first step. I would be cautious to call out more than that. It's the first step. It's a big market there, but we do want to make the Maggi brand present. I'm really confident of the range the team has developed. It's got the best of world cuisine across Indian, Korean, and the Chinese platform, and this helps us then to accelerate growth globally. Maybe Remy will comment more within the context of AOA.
So obviously what you have seen was just a snapshot that is related to it, and we talked about cooking solution and small meals. So the opportunity is in reality to have the 2 pillars when we're talking about that. And Philippines is another great example where we have an amazing business in cooking solution. Small meals is an opportunity. That's one example that I can share with you. So those are the areas. That's a category that has been growing, and we believe that we can further continue to grow on that.
Vika?
Victoria Petrova, Bank of America. Thank you very much. My first question is on frozen. It's around 4% of Nestlé sales in the very US focused. My understanding, and if I'm wrong, please correct me, it probably was a very negative category recently. You mentioned pushing the limits of category through innovation, air fryer driven proposition, and then you mentioned that you will fix pizza. Does it involve pricing? Has it been done? Is there any change in pricing architecture going forward? That's my question to the food team. And then on the KitKat and confectionery, obviously when we look at recent results, there was some pushback from European retailers. Do you see it as a one-off, just a business as usual? Because obviously we know that there is always a pushback on price increases. Is there something new happening there? And in the same context, but more broadly, we heard that there is some inventory management in LATAM. Does it involve confectionery, or is it coming from other? If it's coming from other divisions, then I don't expect any comment from you. Thank you very much. It's 2 questions.
Thank you for the question. I'll go first, maybe, and answer the pizza question. Yes, we've taken price pack architecture changes, both through promotion and through pricing. Also looked at the entire portfolio of brands between DiGiorno and Jack's to see what's the best way for us to compete. I'm happy to share that that has started giving us early signs of green shoots, that the unit share starts to come back already, showing that some of the pricing actions, at least on volume, is showing the returns we wanted.
Steve, do you want to build on that, or no, we're good?
No, I mean, I'd say for many of you, we've chatted about it, but it's ultimately getting the price point back down to the right price point where we price more aggressively. That's done, and you see it in the marketplace today. You see it as they commented, will be positive volume share probably on a 52-week basis also at the end of the year. So it's really lifting volume across the category. And one of the important factors is segmentation of the role the brands need to play across the different price points and being very clear how that works across our portfolio.
So when it comes to KitKat and confectionery discussions in Europe, I mean, nothing new. It's the usual healthy and positive and constructive discussions with our customer friends, leading sometimes to some short moments of not delivering. But I mean, half of this has already been solved and the rest is ongoing. And I mean, our competitor had the same in the last quarter. It's just a different phasing of these discussions.
And in terms of inventories of our customers in LATAM, is more like they are trying to reduce their days on hand. So because of interest rates, they are trying to reduce so we are working in optimizing the level of inventory adequate in order not to affect the on-shelf availability and distribution of our products. But there is no overstock, nothing like this.
Sarah?
Yeah, I wondered if we could have a bit of an update on how Vital Pursuit has landed, because there hasn't really been much comment on that. And just generally, you know, we're kind of hearing about eating more healthily, but at the same time, there's launching noodles into the US, which obviously are ultra-processed. And with the new health secretary appointment in the US, I'm just wondering how your strategy is going to evolve in respect of kind of the less healthy part of the food portfolio. Thanks.
Thank you for the question. There are a couple of questions in that, so let me try and unpack the different threads of those questions. So I think firstly on Vital Pursuits, we've just launched it in the US. It just hit the shelves. Early talk about the performance, but we're quite encouraged by the repeats we're getting there. I think what we like to call out is and compliment the team who saw the opportunity of looking for a GLP-1 companion in the area of meals and went quickly with a proposition fit for purpose with the right calories, the right portion size, the right macro and micronutrients, and that shows the power of innovation and speed at Nestlé. So I think that's what we'd like to say on Vital Pursuit. Noodles, I think, and the larger topic of ultra-processed that you're bringing through, I think I'm really glad you bring the question up because this topic needs a lot of clarification sometimes in a very open and transparent conversation. Because as you know, there is no commonly agreed scientific terminology for ultra-processed. In fact, all the techniques and ways that we prepare food, whether it's fermentation, pickling, freezing, baking, drying, steaming, these are all techniques to basically preserve the quality of food, make sure the nutritions are there, make sure taste is there, make sure affordability is there, and sometimes most importantly, food safety is there. And noodles plays extremely well to those characteristics. The technologies we have in noodles actually complement the culinary science of how ramen used to be made by hand years ago, and that's what we bring to life in a very affordable and a very wholesome manner to the consumer's tables. And therefore, in that context, we are launching that in the US. As far as the last question on how we see the health secretary and his outlook, again, I think it's very early to comment about what threads that would take on, and I would be cautious to comment more than that at this stage.
Celine?
To follow up on confectionery, the first one on, you mentioned that you had pricing already this year. What kind of pricing are we talking for next year? Are we talking double-digit pricing? And what kind of elasticity are you seeing? So are we expecting, I think historically elasticity has been 50% in the category, it's been less post-COVID, but what kind of elasticity do you expect if you were to put this kind of pricing? And my second question is on the growth rate, 4 to 5% for the category. Sounds a lot, so I don't know whether there's pricing benefit there. But if you think that growth rate 4 to 5, I think it's the second fastest category after Nestlé Health Science. So in terms of capital allocation, how do you think, I mean, confectionery never really ranked very highly, I think, in the strategic priority at Nestlé. So just wanted to understand whether if that category growth is real, there is a change in the way you want to manage that category.
So on the first part, you can imagine that I cannot give you some clear element on pricing as it is really sensitive commercially. But we really go for this moderate pricing and balanced pricing as much as makes sense while still having an eye on volume. Historically, you mentioned 50% on elasticity. I think what we've seen is a more moderate down trading. And it's a category, especially chocolate, which has only 5% of private label globally. In Europe, it's a bit more, but in the rest of the world, it's a category where private label are very low and where the down trading is pretty modest. But even if you would have some, we are lucky to have in our portfolio biscuits and also part of sugar in our portfolio, which can also complement pretty well the evolution on chocolate. Anything you want to add on?
Yes, what we can do, we cannot just simply do a cost plus. So what we are trying to do is to work on the right packaging, right channel, protect a little bit the entry level of these and premiumize. So these are the things that we are working every day in order to make sure that we don't we do pricing without losing market share. And this is very sensitive and very delicate the way we implement it.
And when it comes to your second question, yes, we are planning, when we say 4 to 5, we plan more or less 2 to 3 RIG and 2 to 3 pricing. And yes, it's a category which is growing and which has been growing in the past. Now, when it comes to the priority within Nestlé, I mean, first, we are driving our own virtuous circle, and we will free means to invest more behind our own brands. So we believe there is still a lot of potential in really focusing more media investment, putting more behind winning brands, and to generating our own funds to accelerate our growth. And then you saw this morning also in the platform of Laurent, one of them is Choco Bakery. So definitely the group sees potential in confectionery. Of course, I'm not the best advocate to be neutral in that sense because I think it's an amazing category. But definitely the group, you see, is still leading in other category. We are more the good surprise that will surprise all of you in the future.
Warren?
It's just a question on premium within chocolates. I think premium is about 20% of the global chocolate market, but growing rapidly, especially in emerging markets where premium is a very small percentage of the total market. You've obviously got the Kit Kat brand where you've premiumized it in markets like Japan, but how much can you premiumize that brand Kit Kat, or are you able to use other brands that you have, Cahiers, for example, to try and globalize in premium, or do you actually need to acquire in premium? We've seen, for example, Mars buying Hotel Chocolat. I'm just interested to understand from your perspective, you know, how big a priority is premium? Do you have the portfolio to attack the opportunity?
No, as you said very well, premium is only 20% of the total market, still growing 10%. We look more at the valuing up opportunities. So Kit Kat, but also in the as we presented on Choco Bakery, for us it's more on valuing up, bringing additional benefit, additional experience to consumer that they are ready to pay for. And when we look then at channels specifically, you saw in Brazil the experience of Copenhagen, how you can also deliver a premium experience and ask therefore for a premium price. Maybe you want to comment on Copenhagen or?
No, I mean, I already spoke about Copenhagen. If you want to know a little more, I can go.
Okay, we probably have time for one more. Tom, do you want to take it?
Great, thank you. We hear quite a bit about the bifurcation of the US consumer between sort of higher income, maybe asset-heavy, lower income, asset-light consumers and lower income consumers being in a little tougher situation. I wondered what you could say about incrementally the sort of demand in your categories and maybe broadening that out a little bit more to the US overall, and is that leading to more value engineering on your side to try and make cheaper products more at a better margin for you?
Do you want to frame that overall, and then we can take the categories?
Yeah, I'll lean this way just so I stay on the mic. But yeah, the bifurcation of consumer is a clear trend that's been going on for a while, and you see that bifurcation across the categories where premium continues to grow, and the bottom part of the pyramid in the category actually continues to grow. Now, for us, the reason in many of our categories where you have multiple brand strategy to actually sell against all of the stratas within the category is so we can deliver products at the opening price point, be competitive for those households, and work the journey all the way up the premiumization ladder. All the way, if you take coffee, for instance, we can start at Nescafé, Seattle's best coffee. We can move to Starbucks and then move to Nespresso. And so you work them through that premiumization journey as they go. And the same thing, and you have competitive products with margins, good margins at the entry price points as well. So it's really this idea to have the right products at the right levels for the entire category, because we want to be able to serve across all the price stratas. But we don't see that trend stopping. I mean, we see this bifurcation of high-income consumers doing very, very well in the marketplace, and low-income consumers, until inflation normalizes a little more, we don't see any deflation, and their wages are going to have to catch up, and then you'll see the lower-income households start to actually come back in terms of their ability to manage around the inflation.
And then just to build on that for meals in context, because that's where a lot of the mainstream and the affordable consumers come in. I think our approach has been threefold. One, like we mentioned, choice of different brands to address different segments. Secondly, for the people who cannot sometimes afford to go out of home, how can we bring those out-of-home experiences in a simple way at in-home? So the Asian-inspired Mings that I spoke about, the Mexican-inspired Tapatio, but also we launched, for example, experiences. So the #1 program on Amazon Prime, Yellowstone, the meals division did an activation to have 4 SKUs which are inspired from the TV series. In fact, that has got initially great reaction to be the #1 new product in Walmart in that category. So how can we bring those experiences that are out of reach, in reach for the consumers? And thirdly, of course, making sure that through price pack architecture, we are smart in addressing all the segments and all the channels. That's how the meal division is. Engineering of products would be, in fact, the last priority or not the priority, because we want to put more food back in food. And what we've been doing over the last several years, whether it's Stouffer's, whether it is pizza, to actually put back what the consumer values more into the products to improve our quality and to improve the overall value offering.
Great, thank you everybody. So we will take our last break now before coming back for the innovation and marketing session. Let's start that at 4:05 sharp. So please enjoy the final coffee break and see you in here at 4:05.